So the road you took that led you to having your own law firm was quite an interesting one. Won't you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah. So law was never what I wanted to do, although I love what I do now. And having my own law firm, although I think later on in my career it became I need to have my own law firm. It didn't start out like that. I started out growing up in a small town, Ballpark, for those who know where that is, small dot next to the Vaal River. I grew up in a small town. You either became an engineer or a teacher. Strange thing is, that was my two parents. So I ended up studying engineering. I wanted to do music or graphics. I love music, still do. And I was okay at drawing. Glad I didn't do that, but be that as it may. I went to go study engineering at Potch. And I was miserable. I hated it. So I went. Back then, it was easier to just do things without your parents' permission. So this is now a year and a half into engineering, by the way. I went to my first class. By the way, my parents didn't really know what's going on then. But the first class of engineering, I'm like, yes, not engineering, of law. And I thought, yes, this is so interesting because they want you to ask questions. They want you to push the boundaries. They want you to be like, how do you interpret this? What is your, and I like that because I'm the guy that wants to take the radio apart to see how it works. Hence the reason I thought engineering was for me, not realizing, okay, but it's because I want to ask the question. I'm not just happy to accept what you tell me. I want to see why. I want to know why. And so law was just a fun thing. End of that year, went back home, living in Ballpark, which is close to Sasol now. It's like, okay, wait, what do you do now? No, you're going to go work at Sasol. Okay, fine. End up in the legal department under a brilliant lady that heads up their trademarks and domains. All of a sudden, it's like, whoa, there's a creative side of law. You don't know this at university, but it's this creative side of law that deals with trademarks and patents. And, ooh, love this. Me with love of music, I'm like, oh, but I can become a lawyer that deals with music. Yeah. So that's the thing. So I went and I'm committed to law. This is what I want to do. I had a band back then, so that's why it's like, oh, I can do music, I can do law, I can do this. Um, and as a student, you have dreams, and then reality hits you, and it's like, okay, you don't make money out of copyright law because musicians don't have money, and I can't do music for a living because you have to make a living. And that's why I wanted to do law, because I wanted to change that. Now you're a final year and you have to go work somewhere. So I got through contacts and through everything, wanted to do IP, so I went to go do my articles at an IP law firm. Um, got more exposed to it, loving it. Didn't work out there because it was this corporate style of doing law. Yes, you dealt with the creativity, but you were not allowed to be creative. And I remember very clearly that one of the seniors at a law firm I did my articles. A lot of respect for the lady, so I'm not going to name her name because this isn't the negative thing, although it might sound like it. I remember one day, and I was still in the band back then, she called me and she's like, you have to decide, you want to be a lawyer or a musician? And I'm like, I want to be both. Why should I choose? I am a lawyer and I am a musician. I can be both. Um, but that's what they wanted. They wanted you to be the lawyer. They wanted you to be this work from 9 to 5, maybe from 6 till 6, maybe, and that's the job. That's the law job. You don't know this as a student because you're a student. Your life exists out of drinking and maybe studying a bit. All of a sudden, you're in a corporate job. Lawyers are corporate jobs. I'm like, yes, this doesn't work for me. So I moved on to another firm, thinking if I go to a smaller firm, it's going to change. Nope, it's just smaller. Same reality, same issues, same, you're not allowed to be the creative person you actually are. I'm like, okay, great, this doesn't work for me. Eventually, after being there for a while, went through the spiel, got admitted, worked at a small firm for a while, and I realized, no, can't do this. Opportunity at the trademarks office, government, opened up, and I'm like, okay, well, where can I make a difference? Government. Let's go there. Did that also. Loved it. The exposure I got was insane. You're in the trenches, you actually deal with the nitty gritties, but you can't change anything because it's politics. Everything in government is political. Not the political in the ANC versus, it's a political appointment. It is, everything is driven by that undertone. And that's essentially where it started. Like, let me do this, let me pay my dues, and I'll start my law firm. 10-year plan. Then lockdown hits. When's the best time to make your own firm? Lockdown, when everybody struggles. My argument was, everybody is struggling. A lot of people need to do their own thing. Let me do this. I still had my non-profit organization dealing with the music industry and the basically offering free legal advice to the music industry while I was at CIPC. And lockdown hit, and because we weren't allowed to go work in that first time of lockdown, I was bored out of my mind, and I saw a lot of musicians are struggling. So Fame went and just online started posting stuff and doing interviews for the musicians and sharing crazy, and all of a sudden this interest grew in that, and I realized I can actually make a difference. So let me do this. This is the base for the law firm. The musicians. I can do what I wanted to do. What's the worst that can happen? And it just went from there. So me being in my own law firm is a 360, going from I wanted to be a musician, realizing through all the things that you can't not you can be a musician, don't get me wrong, but I can't be a musician. I'm not good enough. I'm all the stuff, and it's not because I don't believe in myself, it's because I'm realistic, and I don't want to do it because I was a musician, you don't have a life. It's not what I wanted. I wanted to be with my family at night, not on the stage at night, as much as I loved it. So that 360 went to, okay, now I have the opportunity to create a law firm, help the people I want, but it's me, so it's going to be the creative industry, and you can do what you want. One-man show running it, and it's like, okay, what's the thing people need? They want somebody to talk to. They want it cost effective. They actually want somebody they can relate to, and they don't want to drive to somewhere. And lockdown, nobody's allowed to do the driving in any case. So online, all of a sudden, the world was okay with online meetings. Perfect. Very quickly, the one-man show turned into a 10-man show, but that's because of me being happy. But I was always stuck in, I will want a law firm where people are allowed to be themselves, because that's all I'm going to be. And if a client, and I love my clients, and we do everything we do 100% with passion. But our argument is, just be yourself. Be that dreamer you want to be, because at the end of the day, the dreamer is the one that creates. Yes, everybody, not only, but the guys who dare to dream are the guys who actually change the world. And I've got a lot of respect for Elon Musk. Wish I knew him personally. You can say about him what you want. That guy's a dreamer, and he just makes it happen. Those are the guys that change the world, and those are the guys that has the most intellectual property, which we want to protect. And why be in a suit the entire day if you can just be yourself? Long hair, bearded, tattooed, lawyer.
And is that where the first time I visited your offices, I was very impressed at the decal at the reception
Yes.
that says "Dreamers are welcome." Do you want to tell me a bit
So
if that is connected to
so
that?
the Dreamers Welcome concept is actually just, it's this thing I always like. The dreamers are welcome, because the dreamers are the one. The dreamers are the one that changes the industry. They are the outcasts usually. They are the weirdos. They are the me's of the world when I was young, and they are usually the ones that don't fit into society. But those who don't fit in are usually the ones the rest of society ends up following, either the trends or the leaders or stuff like that. And we always just said, well, we should be a place where the dreamers are welcome. And when this was at the old office we first met, the first thing I put on the wall is, on the door is, dreamers welcome. There you go. And so many people walked in as like, seeing that they felt welcome. And it became from a motto and just something we said to a core part of our brand. It's like, yeah, we're a law firm, but don't hold it against us. We are a place where the dreamers are welcome. So the dreamers welcome comes from that. Anybody is welcome. Anybody is able to approach a lawyer. Everybody is welcome to. We don't judge because we don't care what you look like. We don't care what your background. We don't care if you are the weirdo, because welcome to the club. And how do you take that everybody is and anybody is welcome and make it something? And it's like, well, the dreamers are welcome, and then just like, there you go, dreamers welcome.
And so some law firms refer to their offices as offices or chambers, or some even refer to their boardrooms as war rooms. But you've got an interesting concept.
Yes. So welcome to our studio. And why do we call it a studio? We don't call our office an office. Or we refer to it, if we tell people meet us at our offices, because they don't understand if we say studio. But we don't refer to our office as an office. We refer to it as a studio, a place for creativity. People, you tell people a studio, they think photography, they think art, they think music, they think creativity. And our office, and if you see the office, it is a studio. It's a place where people can feel like, oh wait, this looks like the place I want to paint. This looks like the place I want to do my podcast. This looks like the place where I want to create. Plus, it's done like that because that's the place I want to work. I want to work in my studio. So it is our studio. And our office in Stellenbosch is just our small studio in the Winelands. Office in Joburg is the main studio. So instead of referring to it as the war room, a negative concept, or the office as a corporate concept, or the dark hole, as most of my colleagues refer to sometimes their offices, we refer to it as what it actually is, and it's a studio because of the positive connection to that word, and also the fact that it is a place of creativity. I mean, what better place? It's a studio because you see it. It is a studio.
Yeah.
Our office in Stellenbosch, our lady, the attorney that heads up our Stellenbosch office, it is actually a studio. In the corner, there's an easel, and she paints if she has a moment. What she loves painting, like I love music. Like, I mean, grab the guitar and play if I want to. She loves painting, so she has an easel in the office there. Why? Because it is literally her studio. This plus there's a bit of history. When I worked from home, I have a music studio at home, and that was my office. Literally, my music studio was my office because that's where I felt the most comfortable working, is in my music studio, surrounded by my instruments. So the studio just grew.
Oh, that's cool. And do you consider yourself to be living and working in your bliss zone?
Yes. So I definitely work in my bliss zone. And for that reason, I live in my bliss zone as well, because let's be honest, the majority of your day is consumed by work. I do what I love, and I do it well, and I do it the way I want to do it, while still doing it the way it should be done, which is definitely the bliss. It's that bliss zone, that blissful area where you just how can I put it? That old age-old saying is, if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. I don't agree with that. If you love your work, you don't mind working, and that's concept of it's bliss. I don't get up being I have to go to work. I'm excited to go to work because it's my place. It's that bliss zone concept where you're like you work optimally because you like being where you are. You like doing it. You're doing it on you on your terms. Not for one moment do you think, "Ugh, I don't like this," because the moment you do that, you lose that high, that bliss zone, like you refer to it, that high. And the moment you're not working, doing a job, because let's be honest, this is a job that I'm doing. The moment you can't do it at that level, you don't do it 100%. You don't do it 100% for your clients. You don't live 100% because you are miserable when you get home, or you are miserable when you wake up and you have to go to work. I'm not. I think my wife hates it because the only thing I talk about is like, oh, this happened at the office, this happened at the office, this happened at work, this is the client. It, it's that, it's so, it's that I'm consumed by my work, but I love it. It's not a consumed by my work. I don't have a family time. I can get into my car now and go pick up my son from school because I can. That's the nature of the space we created in our office. But the work is still done. And that question you asked about, do I live and work in my bliss zone? It's I can't answer. It's not an and. It's one space. My job is my life, and my life is my job, and it's not a negative thing. It's not a I still have my family time. I still have time to go do what I love. But one of the things I love is my job, and I'm sure my clients and people that know me knows this, and that is that bliss zone. If you work there in that circle, all those circles people usually draw, and that's where you're supposed to be, where your life and your interests and your happiness and your productivity all get together. That's where the firm is. It's literally there. So I don't mind doing this every single day of my life because it's there where I'm happy. Yeah.
And so, what kind of people do you deal with, and what is your typical average day consist like specifically that
Yes.
makes it blissful?
So the people we deal with are anybody and everybody. And when I say that is we've got from your corporate international petroleum style clients to musicians and artists and guys that jump around on stages or do comedy skits for a living. So one of the nice things about what we do is we deal with anybody. We have this range of clients. We've got from King Price to Folk of Blisszone. You get the biggest insurance company to the biggest Afrikaans rock band, and everybody in between. And that excitement of what's happening next, what's happening with them. I mean, when and I'm using the two of them as an example because I have physical examples of them. When King Price phoned me about a musical thing, I was so excited because I could help them. I understand it. I come from a musical background and I've got musical clients, and I love that. And I could assist them in a way that they needed to and wanted to be assisted. And I got excited to be able to help them. And when Blisszone announced that they are sharing a stage with Green Day and The Offspring, I felt like a kid because it's like those are the three posters I had against my wall. Well, currently still in my home studio, but at university, that's the three posters that ordained my wall. So it's this, ooh, and I feel almost part of it because they are my clients, and they're not just the clients. I can phone them and I can send them a message like, "Oh man, this is awesome. How do you feel about it?" And they'll respond truthfully because it's not my lawyer asking me. It's somebody that actually cares about my music and rocks out to my songs and shared the stage with me when we were all younger and still dreamy eyed. And that ability to be my clients are not only my clients, there's this active constant new things, constant excitement, constant creativity, constant invention and creation. That's what I love about this. That's what I can do. I can actually feel part of the change. I can feel part of the creation. I can feel part of the future, if I can put it like that. I remember in school, primary school, where you had to draw and coloring in and stuff like that. And I remember this, and my mom still tells it to me often. So it wasn't too early in primary school. I mean, you have to remember, when I was in primary school, you still colored in quite far into primary school because it was still just. And I remember coloring in one day, and I can't remember if it's my mom or my grandmother that said, "You're outside of the lines," and I said, "But a line isn't supposed to be there." So I drew my own line around it. So me, I never fit into a box. I wasn't able to, like, okay, but I want, you give me this picture, but a picture isn't what I want, so I will change it. And in high school, I remember the images of, and when you mentioned about the images of, I remember one of our subjects had that, and I remember, and now I actually for the first time remember the picture of the lawyer. And it was this guy with a briefcase under his arm and the suit, and he looked like that, and he was clean shaven and tie up to there, and the perfect hair, like me. But you know, that typical
shortcut.
And now for the first time, I realized, I'm like, if somebody told me I was going to be a lawyer and showed me that, I would have been like, hell no.
No.
But nowhere on that was the artist or the musician. Or, well, nowadays, the podcaster or the comedian. That's not what I teach children you can be. And the world changes. Joe Rogan, the biggest podcaster in the world, is a multimillionaire. Mr. Beast, the richest, biggest YouTuber in the world, gives millions of dollars away as part of his video. Nobody tells a kid you can be a YouTuber. You don't just become a YouTuber overnight.
Yeah.
You have to put effort in. You have to plan it. It is a job. You're going to have to work a hell of a lot to be able to do that. We had a discussion about Peach van Pletsen's new video.
Yeah.
The amount of effort they put into that video to make it look like it's something they just thought up while they went.
Yeah.
It was months of planning and a big production to look like it's not produced.
Yeah. But you know, Christiaan,
Gamers, I mean, gamers. There's a few. We're very involved with Comic-Con, and the gamers and the streamers. It's a job.
Yeah.
Nobody tells your kids that.
Yeah.
Nobody tells your kids you can become a AI prompter.
Yeah.
That's a job.
Yeah.
No. You can become the engineer or the lawyer or the doctor or the teacher.
And that's who is successful.
Yeah. And
it's those professions that tell you that their parents are proud of their children.
And don't get me wrong, they are successful.
Yeah.
We need those professions.
Yeah.
But you're not going to become that if you don't fit into that. You can't become the doctor if you don't, I want to say, if you can't be a doctor, don't be a doctor.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the ability. A lot of people can become a doctor because they have the brains. I won't ever be able to become a doctor. I'm not smart enough, I admit that. But just because you are smart enough to become a doctor doesn't mean you should. That said, that image of a doctor, that image of the lawyer, and this is now, and we'll chat about it now, that image of the doctor and the image of the lawyer that's not the only doctor and the only lawyer you can be. Yeah. You can be a doctor that's not your traditional type doctor. You might become a doctor, and we're thinking now ahead of technology. You might become the doctor that does the augmented implants for people to become more than humans. Oh. It sounds odd, and I'm now going into fiction, but we don't know where the world is going to. The traditional doctor won't be the doctor that replaces your arm with something that can convert into something else. Very random and very sci-fi. I'm so sorry, but
but
think about it like that.
That's true.
But there's also,
I see it like that.
There's the doctor. It's also the doctor that you see on the image that the children get shown, right? That doctor listens to Drake.
Yes, exactly.
When even while
yes, that's the other thing. And let's look, because I'm a lawyer, so let's not focus on things that I don't know anything about. Let's focus on law. The lawyers, that's the image you get as a lawyer. You become a lawyer because you will become X, Y, and Z. Most school kids don't know how legal profession works. So their framework, and unless their mom or dad or somebody in their close family was a lawyer, they won't know. Their frame of reference is American TV. That's also not even how American law is. So I want to become a lawyer because I want to be Harvey Specter. I want to be the guy in the penthouse and the suit and the fancy cards that goes into the court and says a few cool things and wins the case. That's not how law works. So the students have a misconception about law. Then let's talk about law in that image concept about this is how a traditional lawyer works. Students and school kids that want to become lawyers only have a misconception about law. They see what they see on TV, or they see these images. So already you have this, I need to become a lawyer because this is what I want. Or I must become a lawyer because I'll get rich. I don't know any rich lawyers. But that's the thing, because this is what they think law is. Then they get to university, and again, it's not an accurate depiction of law, because there you sit and you have to study. So you get to university, and there you have this misconception about law, because all day thing you do the entire day is study. Not hard, but you study. And then all of a sudden you do your articles. But now where do you do your articles? You become a criminal attorney or a family lawyer or a general practitioner or that or that. And why do you do that? Because somewhere you liked one of their subjects. It's not what happens in practice. Or you studied law because your dad or your uncle or somebody is either himself a criminal attorney or labor attorney or somebody like that. So that's your framework. That's your reference. I was lucky enough to end up at Sasol, where I got exposed to the fact that you can do this in a creative setting. So when I studied law, that's what I wanted to do. That's where I put my goals in on stuff like that. But your students, they don't have that concept. So they go out and if you do your articles, you go where you get articles, unfortunately. And then you get miserable lawyers, not miserable in fact, miserable in the sense that they don't like what they do because they didn't know there's something else. But now you finish your articles and you already practice, now you can't change. So what I hope, and where I'm getting to, is what I hope somewhere, and a large part of our, not only our marketing drive, but the videos we put out, the concepts we put out, the content we put out there. I mean, we have that animated series that's focused on kids. To tell them, if you want to become a lawyer, realize that there is this part of law as well. And there's other parts of law. And if you don't want to become a lawyer, don't. Don't look, what I want to get to is, don't look into the traditional scope of what you have to do for a living. And if you do that, don't look into what that person needs to be. I'm the head of a law firm, and I look like I look, and I talk like I talk, and I am who I am, and nobody cares. That's the main thing that nobody ever, none of my clients, none of my peers ever came to me like, yo, but you've got long hair and you wear a skull ring. Nobody cares. They care about one thing. Are you the person I feel comfortable with doing what needs to be done? Do I trust you? Yes or no? That's the only question I ask. But the world changed. Parents, the divide between what even my frame of reference is for jobs compared to what there is. Parents should realize that you are literally raising a kid that's going to do something that doesn't even exist yet. Be
Yeah.
open-minded enough to realize that your kid will likely not become a doctor. He might become the guy that designs the AI that does the heart surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be the future. Or he might be
Yeah.
the guy that designs the augmented reality where people go to while they sit at home to be able to have a social engagement with their friends in other countries.
Yeah. Unconvinced
No,
parents.
that's the thing. I remember my dad, was like, okay, when you become an advocate,
Yeah.
I will reward you in this way.
Yeah.
Not in a weird
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
just
yeah,
a normal,
as a motivation.
as a motivation. I'm
Yeah.
like, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to become an advocate.
Yeah.
It's not part of the
Yeah.
journey.
And are they now happy where you
Look,
are? Like,
they're definitely proud of it,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they're happy. They're
Yeah.
happy for me because
Yeah.
it's my parents, and we've got a very good relationship.
Yeah.
The one thing is, last year, was it last year? No, 2023. We exhibited at Comic Con, the firm. And
Yeah.
if you want to know why a law firm is at Comic Con, follow us on social media.
I will.
But we were at Comic Con exhibiting, and I was in my cosplay at Comic Con. And my dad, this is the first time my father firstly came to a Comic Con. He was like, what the hell is going on? Because remember, this is small town engineer and a teacher coming up in a very traditional Afrikaans Christian culture.
Yeah.
Not really knowing, they knew about this weird side of me, but I'd never experienced it firsthand.
Yeah.
Here's their grown up son in cosplay with a bunch of other cosplayers going crazy. And I remember my dad said, I'm like, he did not realize this part of me. He did not realize that, because there he saw me as the successful lawyer representing himself and his law firm as the successful lawyer, being the weirdo cosplayer. And it worked. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
In fact, that's how I resonated with my clients there.
Yeah.
And I think that was likely the first time he realized that, okay, you be you. Well done. Because, I mean, my parents probably from young knew me and my sister aren't your usual small town people.
What does your sister do?
Lawyer.
Okay.
But she's in conveyancing and stuff like that, but also not
conventional,
not a traditional boxy person.
Yeah.
But that was the first time my dad realized, and I wish he could realize that earlier, not because of any negativity, but just like, if he realized that earlier, I think he would have stressed less about me.
Yeah.
That's it, because
For
it's
his own
like
good.
for his own good and for my mom's own good. Because the fact is, if you're, and this is more the message I want to get across, is if you as a parent, and I do this myself with my son who's 8 years old now, but I go out of my way with this. I will not try and push down my views, my wishes, my preconceptions onto him. I will support him in everything, and I will train him, and I will guide him as best I can. By default, it would be in the way I know and the way I have experience. But if he wants to become, and this is what he wants to become, he wants to be a race car driver that built his own electric sports vehicles that's affordable enough that everybody can buy it. He's 8 years old.
That's a very specific goal. Yeah.
Dude, we will make it happen.
Yeah.
I will support you 100%. I have no clue what he's talking about half of the time, because it's, for some reason, his brain works in a different way. But I don't care. That's what you want to do. How are we going to make it do?
Yeah.
So when we drive in the car, he's like, my car will go that fast. I'm like, okay, son, but think of, that sounds brilliant. But remember, if you want a car to go that fast, there's engineering principles you have to apply. A car the faster you go. So I explained this to him, and then he thinks about it. And then he comes back, and he now told me, okay, he knows he needs to become an engineer to be able to build his cars. I didn't tell him to study engineering.
Yeah.
He came to that conclusion himself by me saying, this is what you want to do. What do you need to do? What do you need to think about that? And then this happened last week, where he said, okay, he wants to sell his cars for 200,000 Rand to people, but they have to go. So I'm like, okay, wonderful, son. You have to be able to make a profit about it. Most cars go like that. We had that discussion so that he understands the concept of
Yeah.
you have to dream, but how do you do it? And his answer to me the next day is, okay, I'll make cheaper, slower cars to be able to make the big ones. I'm like, you came up with that yourself. Obviously, it's an 8-year-old, so I'm it's
not
it's
over
oversimplifing it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the-
But it'll be a double 360 if he becomes an engineer.
I know, but he will become an engineer.
For the
Not a
right
boxy
reasons.
engineer. He will
Yeah.
become an engineer. Like, I need a step to become an engineer to become what I want to become. The race car driver that builds his own
Find
cars.
some kind of new aerodynamic
Yes.
kind of structure.
And that's the thing. And I think we should stop talking because else I will keep you here forever.